When I first discovered the work of Tim Noble and Sue Webster, a British artist couple who have perfected a kind of trash pile anamorphosis or shiography, I realized that there was an implicit idea in their projection of a focused light beam through what looked to be a pile of random garbage. Trash plays an important role in Freudian and Lacanian thinking, as we all know. It's the category of the repressed, the surplus, the discarded thought or emotion. It's where we look to find anything valuable to the unconscious. But I thought the ideal trash pile, which is sort of what Freud was aiming to define, would be one that would produce anamorphic profiles even when the focused light beam was moved around the trash, a kind of panoptical shiography. To simplify a bit, I thought that perhaps there should be meridians at the cardinal points. First, just north, east, south, and west. The temporality and seasonality of these as compass points and the relation of the compass directions to the winds that have, in many cultures, played the role of messengers or vectors of good luck or disease would add to the geographical as well as an architectural consideration. But it would always be important to return to the trash pile as a treasure house of signifiers, a debris field from which, after any disaster or trauma, some agalma lies out ready to be found. The aim of this sequence of visual aids is to set up a context for talking about form, Cassirer's sense of symbolic form, as something prior to utterances, but which allow for the disruptive function of the act, enunciation, as in the Cretan paradox. In relation to projectivity, equating the symbolic with the imaginary, in terms of the imaginary's specifically Euclidean structure and the real with projective geometry, that's our modern terminology, and mythic anamorphosis, or the uncanny in general. Our philosophical perspectives are varied. Francesco is, of course, proficient in speaking the language of Baudrillard. I am conversant in Vico and a bit of Cassirer. Angie speaks many tongues. We all, however, speak Lacan and enough of Freud to get by. We have used the funny trash pile projection of Tim Noble and Sue Webster to show how these topics are structured by meridians that, from the refuse piles of terms and ideas, built up by various fields and sciences, there are significant profiles where the original meanings are trashed in favor of more projective readings. Our collaboration began with an interest in finding a missing link between Lacan and a nearly forgotten German philosopher, sometimes called a neo-Kantian, a member of the Warburg group of scholars working in Hamburg before the Second World War. Cassirer's interest in the symbolic was in some sense akin to Lacan's. It wasn't the symbol's way of standing in for a thing or idea, but the way the symbol had of forming reality around things and ideas, a kind of blowback effect. This clearly connects with Lacan's idea of the symbolic as constitutive of subjectivity and not just a tool of a socially constructed human mind. Cassirer's form comes out of his interest as a philosopher of science in the idea of function, how variables relate mathematically thanks to protocols and procedures that align them in specific ways. This alignment acts virtually, but it is the key to the effectiveness of the variables' interrelations. The form is absent from the visible parts of an expression, but present in its negativity in such a way that cultural variability is allowed to construct alternative realities independent of historical, geographic, and ethnological conditions. In short, form is the essence of freedom, a freedom of the signifier. And with freedom comes responsibility. Hence, the next stop on our group's journey was Lacan's Seminar 7, The Ethics of Psychoanalysis, where curiously architecture is cited with specific references to projective geometry.